In this video, I will show you a new feature that's available in Nerdio Manager for Enterprise version 3.3 that is called Custom RBAC Roles. The goal of this feature is to allow administrators to set up custom roles with access to different parts of the Nerdio Manager environment to give users and administrators specifically only the access that they need to the modules that they need to be able to manage. So you'll notice that a menu here that used to be called Users and Roles has now been renamed to RBAC Roles. And it now has two sections. There is something called Assignments, which is the page that you may be familiar with. That's what used to come up when you clicked on Users and Roles. And now there's also a page called Definitions. If we open up the Definitions page, we will see that our 5 built-in roles that have been available up until this version are still available, and no changes in functionality to those built-in roles. But there is now the ability to add a new role that can be done by clicking over here on the Add button. So let's go ahead and call this Test RBAC Role, and we can give it the description, access only to images and Azure files, just as an example. And then what you'll see here is a list of all the various modules that correspond to the menus on the left side of Nerdio Manager, where you can choose what the user will have access to. Choosing workspaces will give user access to a select set of workspaces and host pools. We'll look at that in just a minute. We can also give the user access to Windows 365, desktop images, MSIX app attached, scripted actions, Azure files, and Azure NetApp files. For our custom role, we'll say we are only going to give user access to desktop images and Azure files. So we're going to check just these two boxes and click OK. And now you can see we have a custom role with access to these two modules. If we go back into Assignments, and we're going to click on the Add button right up here, we're going to now see our custom role called Test RBAC Role right here. And we can choose a user, let's say user NMW tester 3, and click OK. And now we'll see that that user has access only to those specific areas of the environment. So this is the Test RBAC role that we assigned to this user. And if they were to log in, they would only see this module and storage Azure Files module. Let's take a look at another example. Let's go ahead and create a new role and call it Limited Workspace Access. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to give a user access to the Workspaces module. Let's go ahead and click OK. Here is our newly created role. Let's go back to Assignments. Let's find our NMW tester 3 right here. Oops, tester 3. Let's click Edit, select the Limited Workspace Access role. And now we have some additional options. We can select individual workspaces that we want to give the users access to. So for example, we can select 2 workspaces, and then we can select host pools within those workspaces that the user will have access. By default, once we select the workspace, the user will be given access to all workspaces in that host pool. But let's imagine I did not want the user to have access to all the host pools in the Spring Update workspace. And instead, I wanted them only to have access to the app attach, to the ANF pool, and maybe one called Field Apps. So you can see now I've set up a scope to give the user access to all host pools in the Azure US Government Workspace and 3 host pools in the Spring Update Workspace. So once I click OK, you will see that this user has access to all host pools in the Azure US Government Workspace and only these 3 within the Spring one. So if the user were to log in, they would only see the Workspaces module. Within the Workspaces module, they will see fully everything in this workspace, but within the Spring workspace, only these 3 host pools would be available. Hope you found this useful, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos.